Theodore W. Goldin, once a soldier with the 7th Cavalry, carried a long-hidden truth. He was among the final men to see General Custer alive, and his rare eyewitness account survives in a letter he penned in 1904. Today, we're going to delve into that powerful document. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. It helps support our growing community. I received your letters from July 28th and August 2nd, asking for some recollections of my experiences and insights regarding General Custer's final battle. Though many years have passed, and my memories may not be as vivid, I'll share what I can, despite the limited time I have available. Your articles on this campaign and the whole series have been engaging, and I'm pleased they're soon to be published in book form. To answer your inquiry, I became acquainted with General Custer upon joining the regiment in 1873 and remained with him until the fatal day. I served alongside him and the unit, excluding 1875 when my company was posted in the southern U.S. By early 1876, word reached us about a campaign being launched against the Sioux involving 3 sizable columns. A few weeks later, we got our marching orders and moved from Shreveport, Louisiana, to Fort Lincoln in the Dakota Territory. When we arrived, General Custer was still in Washington testifying before a committee and didn't rejoin us until just before we set out. I had been placed under arrest in Chicago while on the journey from Washington, so I'll skip over the details of our march from Fort Lincoln to the Yellowstone River, where we camped near the Powder River's mouth. We lingered there for a few days to gear up our pack train, having decided to leave the wagons behind and set up a supply base. Major Reno had already gone scouting and was expected to meet us near the Tongue River by June 17th. Leaving behind the wagons, the band, and newly arrived recruits at Powder River, we pushed on and set up camp at the Tongue River's mouth on June 17th, the same day General Crook fought a fierce battle on the Rosebud. Throughout the day, we watched every dust cloud anxiously, hoping it signaled Reno's return, but no word came. The next morning, June 18th, we packed up and marched up the valley, linking with Reno around midday. General Custer's mood had noticeably shifted. He was more solemn, restless, and appeared uncharacteristically uneasy. Yet, when Reno submitted his report, Custer sprang back into his energetic, decisive self. He swiftly organized the troops and pushed toward the Rosebud, where General Terry had gone ahead aboard the steamer Far West, planning to coordinate with General Gibbon's troops nearby. We marched late into the night and reached the Yellowstone, camping with the hope of intercepting the steamer. The next day, we spotted Gibbon's wagon train and the Far West upstream. Couriers were sent to notify them of Reno's discovery of a major Indian trail. We camped at the Rosebud's mouth and held a council to discuss Reno's findings. On June 21st, another meeting took place aboard the steamer where General Custer received his final orders, just as you described them. When asked how soon he could reach the Little Bighorn, Gibbon answered no earlier than midday on the 26th. Custer was offered extra troops and artillery from the steamer, but he declined, trusting in his men's ability and worrying that the artillery would slow them down near the enemy. Many believed he was aiming to operate independently, as he had done before, and that wish was granted. On June 22nd, we assembled before Generals Terry and Gibbon and soon set off along the trail that Reno had found. From there, we followed the trail closely, only leaving it when necessary to find good camping ground. Against our instructions, no attempts were made to scout the surrounding area or send updates to Gibbon, even though Scout George Herendeen was assigned for that. Our pace was fast and relentless until the night of June 24th, when we appeared to settle in camp. But it was a deception. We had orders to remain saddled and ready to move again that night. From that point, Custer seemed renewed. His focus was sharp, and he was determined to confront the enemy. The trail we tracked came from the Missouri River direction, and our scouts, Bloody Knife and the Crows, estimated it belonged to 1,000 to 1,200 warriors from Missouri River agencies. Around 11 p.m., orders came to saddle up and form ranks. A recon party, including Crows, Reese, and officers like Lieutenants Varnum and Hare, was sent to scout ahead and locate the village. As we left our bivouac, we advanced toward the divide, hoping to reach the Little Bighorn's foothills before dawn. But the harsh terrain delayed us, and at daybreak we found ourselves in a ravine at the foot of tall bluffs, still unsure of our distance from the river. Scouts had gone ahead and reported finding the village, but Custer was skeptical. Meanwhile, signs emerged that we had been discovered. A box thought to contain ammunition, but filled with hardtack, had fallen and was found by Indians. This news prompted Custer to move quickly. As the forces were splitting, Mitch Bouye, a half-Crow interpreter, warned Custer that he was heading into more trouble than he could handle. Custer asked if he was afraid. Bouye replied he would go with Custer anywhere, but warned that neither would return if they went into that valley. Just then, Lieutenant McIntosh ordered me to report to General Custer as an orderly, which I did. Custer told me to ride with Lieutenant Cook, the adjutant, and follow his instructions. While we paused, most men rested while the horses grazed. Custer then gave the signal to move, with the lead going to whichever unit was first prepared. Soon, everyone was ready. Orders had been given for Benteen to scout leftward and drive away any Indians he saw, reporting back if needed. Reno was to follow the trail, while Custer took 5 companies to the right, leaving McDougal to bring up the pack train. We started moving per those instructions. After a fast half-hour ride, the rugged ground forced Custer's column to angle left. We soon came upon Reno's men struggling up the path. After a rough climb, we reached the ridge and looked out over a rolling plain stretching toward the river. From the divide, we could see Reno advancing on the trail and Benteen scouting the bluffs far to the left. We kept to Reno's right, trailing at some distance. Custer seemed increasingly impatient, often racing ahead, then pulling up to wait, only to dash off again. Then we noticed a great dust cloud moving in the valley, its cause unknown. Custer, with just his bugler, rode out to a high point where he waved his hat, possibly in greeting. He returned to the front where Captain Keogh and his experienced I Troop were leading. With excitement, Custer told Keogh, "They're running. If we keep after them, losing half our horses would be worth it." Keogh calmly replied, "General, we'll do all that men and horses can." Suddenly the bugles rang out, the first charge call since the Rosebud, and we surged north, trying to enter the valley, but failed. After several tries, Custer and Cook consulted. Cook quickly jotted a note, handed it to me, and said, "Take this to Reno, stay with him until we link up, then report back." I rode off as the last of our men disappeared into the ravines. I realized I was now alone in enemy territory. I made my way toward Reno's force, which I found by the dust rising above them. Luckily, I was only fired upon from a distance. After a 6-mile sprint, I reached Reno just as he was dismounting his men to fight on foot. I gave him the note without knowing what it said. He skimmed it and pocketed it. Meanwhile, the Scouts panicked and ran, not stopping until they reached safety at Powder River. Soon, we were being outflanked. We tried to fend off the enemy while moving to the timber, losing several horses in the process. In the timber, we found better cover and held our position. I saw Captain Moylan ready his troop. Lieutenant Wallace asked Captain French what the orders were, and French replied that none had come, but a charge seemed likely. French suggested mounting up and preparing to support the charge. Some 15 men, however, were left dismounted, their horses killed or scattered. McIntosh took Trooper McCormick's horse, to which McCormick grimly said he'd rather die on foot. When we moved out, we were stunned to find Reno charging not at the enemy, but toward the bluffs on the opposite side of the river. The Indians, realizing this, poured fire onto us as we retreated in chaos. Fortunately, they shot poorly, and our losses were few. It was later said that Reno fired his revolver dry and threw it away. But I know that's false, as Benteen or his family later had the weapon. My horse fell during the retreat, and I was thrown into the sagebrush. I had only surface wounds. Lieutenant Wallace shouted that my horse was dead and urged me to run. I obeyed, making it to cover in the timber. From there I saw Hodgson's horse leap into the river, the lieutenant appearing wounded. He clung to another trooper's stirrup, crossing the river. Once across he tried to mount but was shot again and fell. Another man tried to help but was also shot. Hodgson fired his revolver as the enemy closed in, until shots struck him and he dropped. I remained hidden, the Indians too busy looting bodies to notice me. Gunfire echoed from downriver, Custer, I assumed. Soon, most Indians in our area left to join the fighting further down. I found Herondine and learned the 15 dismounted men were hiding in timber 200 yards away, unable to cross due to fire. The Indians burned the river bottom, possibly to mask their movements or force us out. The smoke gave us cover. We crossed with difficulty and met a Crow scout, who led us back to our unit. We found Benteen's battalion had arrived, but no word from Custer. Later, a white flag waved from near where Herondine and I had sheltered. Lieutenant Hare crawled up the bluff to signal that we were friendly. The flag bearers were our dismounted men who had finally crossed the river and rejoined us. I remembered seeing McIntosh riding ahead of me with a lariat dragging dangerously. Some tried to warn him, but he didn't react. His horse fell, and I later found him lying still. He never moved again. On the bluffs, I overheard Captain Weir arguing. "By God, if you won't go, I will," he shouted. He mounted up and led D Troop toward the firing. The rest of the command followed, except for Benteen's and Godfrey's units, which held formation. We pushed down the valley but soon found Weir in retreat, pursued by superior numbers. We set up a defensive line so Weir's men could fall back safely. Once they passed, we regrouped. Benteen, now seemingly in command, told Wallace, "No point in retreating further. Form your troop here." Wallace replied, "I've only 2 men." Benteen smirked. "Then form your 2 men, and I'll tell you more once I figure it out." That tiny force anchored our defense. Others joined, and we built quick barricades of sagebrush. We kept the enemy back until nightfall. After dark, we repositioned, dug in, and set up a hospital. Fighting resumed at daybreak and raged until mid-afternoon when the Indians broke camp and left upriver, out of rifle range. Twice that afternoon, men went to fetch water and were fired upon. Madden of K Troop was hit and later had his leg amputated. The next day, Generals Terry and Gibbon arrived, bringing aid and grim news. On the 28th, we crossed the river with our wounded and buried the dead. Custer's body showed no mutilation, unlike most. In closing, I won't dwell on battle scenes already described in your article. Among soldiers and veterans, it's widely believed 3 things caused our defeat: splitting our forces into 4 groups, 15 miles from battle, Custer arriving nearly a day early, and the lack of horses and extra ammo. Custer was daring, sometimes too much so. I believe his reckless decision was partly driven by his desire to redeem himself after being disgraced by the president. Perhaps he hoped to repeat the glory of Ouachita and reclaim his reputation. Whatever the reason, he fought with courage and died among men who had followed him through many battles. We hope this rare account has offered fresh insight into the Battle of the Little Bighorn during the Great Sioux War. Be sure to subscribe. We'll bring you more first-hand accounts from America's storied past.